to get past that hurdle, I think you need to talk about how you approach the local market with local messaging. I think it's important that you document quality, security, references, compliance is very important, especially GDPR, health, safety, environment, and sustainability is also a very big thing here.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of the Value Driven Marketing Podcast. In this episode, we are talking about expanding to Norway, the country with the highest concentration of fjords, but also the most Teslas per capita, as it turns out. It's a small market in terms of population, but a wealthy one. Most of the companies there have less than 100 employees, and you'll discover what it takes to successfully expand into Norway, how Norwegian people don't appreciate small talk and gifts as much in the business space, and how to approach companies there in a way in which you can win trust and get the foot on the door. In this episode, my guest is Andreas. He's the founder and creative director of Iteo, the Norway's leading B2B agency. Iteo has been recognized as the best communications agency in the country for 5 years in a row and as the best content and performance agency. Andreas brings 25 years of experience in creating, building, and protecting brands. His specialty is B2B marketing for IT, tech, energy, and building and construction sectors. He has worked with brands such as Xerox, IBM, Dell, Salesforce, Emirates, and many other leading brands. So hope you'll join me in this episode and learn everything you ever wanted to know about Norway and the business environment there. Hey, Andreas, welcome to the Value Driven Marketing Podcast. It's good to have you today. How are things on your end?
Thank you very much. It's fine. It's autumn, so hectic days.
Okay. Yeah, I can see. Andreas, before we dive into what it takes to successfully expand into Norway, I wanted to know a little bit about Iteo. What do you guys do? How do you help your clients? And about your role as founder and creative director.
Absolutely. So we founded Iteo close to 15 years ago. It was originally started as a technology PR agency.
Okay.
But given that Norway is a small market, we quickly saw that we needed to expand our offering, and we're now the leading B2B agency in Norway. So what we do is pretty much everything for our clients. We help them with everything in their own channels. We help them with PR and earned media, and we help them with advertising, and we do brand building for them, strategy, pretty much everything from insight to measurements.
And you bring a ton of experience, so you have quite a history behind you, which is great. So Andreas, let's dive into Norway. Personally, I haven't done much business with Norway, so I'm really looking forward to learning more. And I think a lot of companies and people, when they think about expanding into a new market, they're considering mostly the practical aspects, such as how big is the market, is it big enough, and things like that. But I believe that also the more subtle aspects of culture, how people make decisions, matter too. So let's start from here. What is the culture like in Norway? How do Norwegian people prefer to communicate and make decisions?
Absolutely, and you're always welcome to visiting us in Norway.
I'll try. It's actually on my bucket list.
Perfect. Just let me know. So Norway is a quite small country in terms of how many people that live here. We're a very big country in terms of a lot of nature and a lot of beautiful scenery, but there are only like 5 million Norwegians living here. We got 4 seasons, so we got cold winters, we got nice summers, and we got something in between, and the autumn and spring. But we're very much people colored by having 4 seasons. I would say that Norway is a quite wealthy country, given that oil is our biggest export industry. And we're also a country that's been very good in producing raw materials to the rest of the world. So oil, fish throughout history, a lot of the stuff due to a long coastline. So we like to be, in terms of our communication style, we're quite direct, we're quite open, we like to keep it factual. We're also not a very passionate, we're not very passionate people. We're quite reserved. So there's not much small talk. And we also like to be quite open and honest. And I think we're also quite daring enough to say when we're uncertain and we're not willing to answer something, that we're quite open and honest about that. Another thing that's I think is quite apparent in the Norwegian business landscape is that there are quite flat hierarchies. So there's not a big difference between the CEO and a normal worker. Um, we like to be consensus oriented. We like to include everyone else, and we like to think a lot before we make decisions.
Mm-hmm.
So quite a friendly atmosphere, quite relaxed. We're quite keen on having a strong work-life balance. So work hours in Norway is pretty much 8 till 4. And then
Okay.
somebody works more, somebody works less. But there's a lot of focus on being able to get the children out of kindergarten and just striking the balance between what you do at work and what you do at home. So that doesn't say that we don't work hard, because I think we're one of the companies in OECD with the highest productivity per staff or per person. But we're very concerned about when we're working and when we're not working. So I think that's a key thing to think about. Another thing I would like to add is that we're not like to keep it quite factual, and we don't like bragging and coming up with big glossy messages and so on and so forth. It's quite straight and down to earth culture and way of life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. And you mentioned you are consensus oriented. Can you detail on that, expand a little bit, and maybe what's the impact on how you make decisions?
Sure. You seldom see that managers just make a decision without consulting staff or people around them, because we kind of need the whole team to come along if we are to implement something. So it's not that the managers just makes decision and forces everyone else to come along. It's more of a getting the whole team to succeed kind of way of doing it. So managers often consult staff and peers before making tricky and difficult decisions. So decision groups are often also quite big when you do investments and you buy stuff. So I think that's quite important. And I
Mm-hmm.
think another thing that is quite important to note about our business culture is that we're quite strong on the codes of conduct. So one shouldn't try to invite people out for fancy dinners or give them gifts or do anything that could be perceived as bribery, because
Mm-hmm.
that they're really strong ethical policies on that. So you should be careful about giving as much as a bottle of wine or something like that, because a lot of companies you're not allowed to accept it.
Okay, okay, very interesting. Yeah, okay, okay, good to know. So speaking of gifts, is there something else when it comes to business etiquette that someone coming from outside of Norway should pay attention to?
Yeah, I think that arrive early for a meeting, be factual, stick to the agenda, try not to have long, meaningless meetings. Try to be quite try to be have a clear agenda and always do what you promise. So if you promise something after meeting, follow up, make phone calls. We're not very formal, so first name basis is quite fine. You don't have to say Mr. Thue, you can say Andreas, and that's fine. And we hardly use last names at all when there's a connection established. I think that's quite important.
Okay, okay, sounds very interesting and a bit close to what I also tend to think when I think of Norway. So moving into doing business in your country, how open would you say are local companies in general to doing business with external partners?
I think that we're very exposed to suppliers from all over the world now, and in general, there's a skepticism towards brands that you don't know of, and I don't think that's the thing that's only related to Norway. I think that's universal. That if you don't know of it, and it's a lot of emails coming from APAC and other places, and there's a lot of vendors, for instance, from Eastern Europe that try to sell us stuff all the time. And of course, we're more skeptical to that compared to local vendors that have people on the ground and brands that you know of. So I think to get past that hurdle, I think you need to uh, talk about how you approach the local market with local messaging. I think it's important that you document quality, security, references, compliance is very important, especially GDPR, health, safety, environment, and sustainability is also a very big thing here. Uh, that you have to comply with all sustainable practices. Uh,
Okay.
yeah.
So
And
what would you say are the main concerns? Because of course it sounds very natural that you tend to be say less receptive to a brand that you've never heard of and that doesn't have a local presence. What would you say are the main concerns when being approached or when considering to work with an external partner?
I think there's, in general, a skepticism to those that you don't know or don't those that you don't know of. And I think have been some examples on outsourcing work to external parties talking in other languages, stuff like that. So I think if you are to move towards the Norwegian market on a remote basis, I think you need to focus very much on the compliance, the security, the HSE, as I said, and also uh, try to get past that hurdle that you are a supplier in a country far, far away. I think you need to talk about how you can make that, how you can bridge that connection, and how you can get close to show that you are a trusted, reliable partner in the local market. And of course, customer references also always comes in handy, where you can talk about we have supported this other company in Norway with these and these results. So I think whatever you can do to remove skepticism and to establish trust is, I think that's vital.
Mm-hmm. And in terms of having a local presence, having people on the ground that speak the language, how important would you say that is?
I think it's quite important. I wouldn't say that you have to do it, but I think you need to have some kind of presence. So, if you travel and I think meeting people face to face and establishing trust is something that you never should underestimate. Uh, I think that's quite important. And in terms of local presence, I think you need to show that you have some kind of connection to the Norwegian market. I'm not saying that you should build a complete Norwegian website, but I think that you should have some if a lot of the we're quite fine with having English web pages and websites to go to, but I think you need to demonstrate some kind of local presence in the market. If that's a Norwegian flag with a contact reference or the contact details and so on. So, but that comes down again to the brand and how big you are and how well known you are and stuff like that. So, demonstrate some kind of market presence, demonstrate that you understand the market, you understand the needs, and that you understand what's important for Norwegian stakeholders.
Mm-hmm. And can we point out, just kind of sum up what matters for Norwegian stakeholders? You already mentioned the data privacy compliance, win the trust, and so on. Can we like try and point them out, like sum them up?
You could break it down to 3 or 4 factors that I've already mentioned, but I'm happy to repeat it. So I think when you when you offer a price, make it clear, predictable, no small print, very little hidden figures. I think trust is vital. and contracts that are easy to understand, and proposals that are easy to understand, and where you don't get a lot of questions and skepticism. I think the second one is that you have local Norwegian or Nordic references. I think that's vital. Um, understand that's difficult if you've never done business in the Nordics before, but I think it's quite important that if you don't have that, I think you need to have a global brand or a brand that everybody's heard of that you trust. The third thing is that you understand the governance, you understand the compliance, you understand what's important in terms of sustainable practices, yeah, data privacy and all that's quite important. And the last one is that you're reliable, that you can be trusted, and that maybe you're a thought leader in your market, that you are there to share something or you're there to learn your customer something, that you pretty much are a player that can help and support and show the way.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And let's detail a bit on the localization side of things, because you mentioned you're fine with English as well. So what would you say are the main assets that a company that's trying to tackle Norway should build first? And what should be localized? What's fine to be in English?
I think it comes down to what kind of company you are. If you are a brand that nobody's ever heard of, I think you need to invest more in having local presence and local feet on the ground. If you're a bigger brand, I think you can get by with your brand name and your size. But I think what I would do is that, as I said, you don't have to have a full Norwegian website. It helps, but it's not needed. But you need to show that you have some kind of local presence. You need to show that you respect the privacy and GDPR rules, that you have the cookie regulations, all that. That's quite universal for all companies, I think. And it also comes down to if you're a B2B or if you're a B2C company. So if you do any payment on the website, I think you need to be very, very concerned about showing that it's a trusted payment channel, because obviously people are skeptical in terms of IT security. So if they are going to buy something for you through your website, you need to be very diligent in terms of how you uh, establish trust. I think that's vital. And when it comes to the tone of voice, be fact-based, go straight to the point, show off documentation and TCO, but you also need to have a messaging and something that is interesting, that is engaging, that people actually want to listen to, and that they want to pay attention to who you are and what you have to offer them. I think that's quite vital. Yeah, and I think the rest would be uh, repeats of what I've already done. But I think showing some kind of local presence, showing that you understand and value the local market, I think that's vital, because you, as in any market, you want to win the hearts and the minds of your customers. And whatever you can do as a salesperson to remove insecurity and establish trust is pretty much vital. So maybe it's an idea to go through a local partner or find somebody that can be your feet on the ground and help you more easily get into the markets.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Super interesting points you've made here. And can we look at maybe what could break a deal? So some key deal breakers that one should pay attention to. What would kill a deal on the making with a Norwegian company?
Not doing your groundwork, not understanding the needs of the customer, i.e. your research, that you send a lot of emails that has no value at all. I get tons of emails from global providers of stuff that think they can help me save the world, and most often they haven't done their research and just sending out spam and mass emails. Another thing that most people, Norwegians hate, and I think people in general hate, is that you link up you connect with them on LinkedIn, and then 1 second later they send you a sales pitch on a LinkedIn DM. I think that's the worst thing you can do, and it's really annoying unless it's really relevant and they have something that nobody else has. So I would say being too pushy, being too aggressive, trying to be too clever when they pitch on their emails or LinkedIn or whatever they do, I think that's a big challenge. So maybe I know most companies have a local collaboration in each market where they go through chambers of commerce and stuff like that. So maybe there are interest organizations or some stuff coming out of your market that could help you more easily come into the Norwegian markets. There are several examples of what I've gotten kind invitations from companies that say, finally, our CEO is coming to Norway this and this month. You're now one of the lucky few that can meet him or her. When do you like to meet us at this and this hotel? So it's just, it doesn't work like that. We're not lured in by fancy titles or stuff like that, especially from companies that we don't know of. So you need to find a way you can establish trust in an open and honest way. I think that's the key thing to look at.
So no gimmicks, no opportunities like we're here, meet us now or never. Okay, okay.
Uh, The thing is that I listened to a former colleague that had a presentation yesterday that talked about scaling internationally, and he said that if you're not willing to invest the money that's needed to go into the market, don't do it because you can't cheap yourself into a market. So I would rather put your money in doing an internationalization to one market instead of spreading thinly in four markets. So if you're looking at the Nordics, do Norway first, or Sweden first, or Denmark first, and do that well, and then move into the other markets. Don't just try to split your money in three ways and do it all at once. I would rather work with quality rather than quantity.
Okay, okay, super interesting. And because you mentioned research a couple of times and understanding the market, what would you say are the best places, the best websites or organizations in order to be able to pull data about the Norwegian economy, about the companies? So what will be the different sources you recommend?
Sure. It, of course, is very dependent on which industry you're targeting yourself towards. So if you're an IT company, there are IT organizations that can help you that has a lot of information, energy, the same industry. So first, I would just try to Google or do a prompt and find out what's the local industry organization for the industry that you're targeting or the industries you're targeting. When it comes to statistics, we have a government statistic organization called SSB. So that's ssb.no, which is called, well, it relates to all the kind of statistics you need about the Norwegian society and the Norwegian labor market and everything. So there's a load of valuable information there. We also have a business register of all businesses in Norway called Brønnøysundregistrene, so it's hard to translate, but I think it's BRR.
I'll try to put it in the descriptions for people who want to access it.
Yeah, and you also have the Financial Supervisory Authority. You have NAV that relates to the labor market. You have Norwegian Consumer Council, and there are a lot of places where you can actually get good and relevant information. So I think you're only a search or a prompt away where you can get all that valuable information. There are also the media landscape is quite also is not that broad because again we're not that many people here. So you have a mix of big newspapers that is national, and you have like business newspapers like Norwegian Financial Daily or Dagens Næringsliv, the dn.no that you can look at. 24.no is a quite good business publication. And then, again, there's a lot of trade media for different verticals that you also could look at.
Mm-hmm.
And again, they're only a search away, so it's quite easy to find if you just do your homework.
Okay, okay, that's very good. So you have places where you can inform yourself. And Andreas, because you mentioned LinkedIn outreach, which I think that's be very popular regardless of the market and you not being open to it. So I'm wondering, what would you say are the channels that are, the most effective in reaching decision makers in Norway? Or is it a question of rather method over channel?
I would strongly say don't use Meta for business. Try to reach people on Meta because then people just think that you're a bot or a scam artist trying to lure you into doing stuff. So I would stay away from Meta and all the B2C channels to reach people.
Okay.
And I would say LinkedIn is probably your best bet. But I would do it in a smart way. I would start by sharing stuff or showing that you're a thought leader instead of just sending DMs to thousands of Norwegian people. You need to, if you are going to use that channel, try to not be, excuse my language, a pain in the ass.
Mm.
Uh, Try to do it in a smart and clever way, and don't be pushy, don't be aggressive. Uh, you don't have to be overly polite either, but just respect that people are getting these messages all the time. So you have to be smart and clever in how you use it, and don't do that. Connect with me and send in a DM 1 second later. I think that's the worst thing you can do.
Yeah, it's definitely a big turnoff. I can reckon. And Andreas, I'm just curious. So my perception is that when you Google different Norwegian companies, they will tend to have email addresses and phone numbers, even of senior people or leaders in the team. So is that correct? And would that be like a good channel to reach people? Just pick up the phone and call the CEO of a company?
I would say so, but again, if you're selling something that is not relevant for the CEO, I wouldn't bother hassling him with that. So I think it's about knowing your audience. And if you have something that's very relevant for the CEO, you need to think about how big is this company?
Mm-hmm.
He or she actually uh, has the responsibility for this. I think it's quite important to understand that I think 97% of all Norwegian companies has less than 100 employees.
Okay.
So, so there's only 3% of our companies that has more than 100 employees, which is, so we're a very SME kind of nation with some few big enterprises. So I wouldn't send a request to a CEO in a big company, but maybe you can do it in a smaller company, because the CEO there probably usually often have very many hats there and roles they have to fill. So I think it comes down to the company as well. And again, it comes down to your pitch. How good are you at being relevant and timely and important for the person you are about to address?
Okay, okay, that makes a lot of sense, and very interesting to hear that there are many SMEs in like the structure. The majority of companies are SMEs, which makes sense for a company sorry, country with 5 million inhabitants. Super interesting to know that. Yes, I'm wondering if we could discuss or talk about a successful expansion into Norway, so a company that has managed to tap into your market and did it in a good way.
Hmm. So I think most global organizations are quite good at going into Norwegian companies, doing it in a good way, and we're a highly digitalized country. So we're very much early adopters when it comes to new technology, new solutions, new models, everything, business models. I mean, and we're a quite tech savvy country, and most Norwegians are quite well off financially. I'm not saying we're rich, but we're not poor either. So we can afford to have nice homes, nice cars, and a couple of holiday trips a year. So I think that's so. I thought a lot about which company could it be, and I think one of the best examples is the automotive manufacturer Tesla.
Okay.
Yeah, because I think Tesla is, I think it's the country, Norway is the country in the world that has the most Teslas per inhabitants per capita.
Okay, I thought you were the country with the most concentration of fjords, but also Tesla.
Exactly, and I think Elon Musk has said that a couple of times, that Norway's been like quite important in terms of the internationalization, and there's been a huge Tesla interest there for many years. I think one of the reasons why they succeeded is that the first years, not now, but the first years, the government subsidized Norwegians buying electric vehicles due to climate reasons. I think Tesla has been quite good at building their supercharger network. They've been quite good at providing local service centers. There's been a very good message in terms of cost benefits. And they've also championed and spearheaded quality, great value for money, and so on and so forth. There's been a development in society that's been ideal for Tesla. and that they're also been quite successful building a brand and creating a good, strong local community in Norway. Obviously, they have some brand challenges the recent year with because Norwegians didn't like Elon Musk going into the U.S. government and everything he did there, and they don't like that bullish behavior that he sometimes can have. But we still buy his cars like crazy. So I think that one of the best examples.
Okay, okay. Thank you so much. So Tesla is an interesting one. Andreas, I'm wondering if there's like one final advice you would give to a business owner that is considering expanding into Norway.
Yeah, I would say do it with quality. I would say don't try to be, as I said earlier, don't do it cheaply. Do it correctly. Do it with quality. Think about you need to build trust. So it's more important to get a few customers first, and before you build this big pipeline of a lot of marketing qualified leads. I would rather work qualitatively, not quantitatively. Um, do a well-defined pilot with a Norwegian reference customer, exceed their expectations and make sure they're super happy because, as in most other markets, recommendations go a very long way. And make sure that you build a relationship to the reference customers you have so that they're able to speak warmly of you and you can use them. So I will scale gradually. But again, that comes down to what kind of business you are. Are you rolling out the B2C offering or are you rolling out the B2B offering? So
And how big your company is and the resources that you can put into motion, I guess.
exactly. But I would, as I said, do it well. Don't do it. If you are to do it well. Don't do it on a very low budget. If you go in and you just hire one or two people, the risk is that you invest a lot of money in these people, and then they quit after a year, and then you have to do it again. So I would build a good team or a local presence quite well in the beginning, and then scale from there. And maybe see if instead of you coming into the Norwegian market, maybe you should do it through a distributor or reseller or something like that, because there's a high culture of reseller distributor models locally
Mm-hmm.
in most industries.
Okay, so take it step by step, invest in quality, and considering partners as well. Okay.
Exactly. But I think the advice I've given is quite general and broad. So if we went into one sector, one could pinpoint it and be more specific what you do if you're an ICT company or if you're in the building construction sector or something like that. It just depends on where you are and what you're selling.
Mm-hmm. Because you're in the tech and IT sector, and in Romania, there tend to be many software companies that look to expand in the Western Europe. Can you maybe make it a bit specific to the IT sector?
Sure. Again, are you selling services or are you selling products? I think that's
The
the
services,
difference.
I would say.
So there's interest organizations in Norway called it used to called ICT Norway. They just rebranded. So I think Tech Norway. So there's an interest organization you can look at there. There's a strong there's a lot of I think ICT is also one of our biggest industries in Norway. So there's a lot of companies you can look at partnering with. There's a lot of companies that are resellers of other companies that you can partner with and do stuff together with. So I would say do your research well. Are you selling a marketing solution? Maybe you should do it together with a marketing organization. So I think it's about invest in your homework. Maybe consult somebody locally to find the answers instead of just running very quickly in the wrong direction. I think that's key that you invest in insight, understand the local market, understand the culture, and do that homework because that's going to save you a lot of money instead of just trying to. I think assumptions is the mother of all fuck ups. I think somebody told me. So if you assume wrongly, I think you're going to spend a lot of money and lose a lot of money on doing the wrong things. So insight and research, I think that's key.
duly noted. Andreas, thank you so much. This has been a pleasure. And I feel like the amount of advice and insights has been quite high. So thank you so much for being here today.
My pleasure, and thank you all so much for asking me to attend, Elena. I really enjoyed that.
Anytime, anytime.